Building relationships is probably my weakest point. I'm not a mean person. I'm not rude. Sometimes I'm rude. I can come across as fairly cold, highly introverted. I am very judgmental, but I judge facts, not people. When I'm talking with people, I have a very high standard for facts and ideas, which can come across as impatient, cold, unfeeling, irritating, controlling, bitchy, bossy. However, I do have very strong relationships with my friends and family. Those relationships are based on respect. I don't have any superficial relationships. Either I'm friends with someone and I truly respect them at their core, or I don't really want to be around them. It's all or nothing stance that has often led to conflict in a work environment where I have to work with people that I might not choose to be around. I really enjoyed learning this term courageous conversations, and I think it beautifully sums up what needs to happen more in our society at large. Right now we are so politically divided. We sit behind our computers and we share and we like and we click, but we don't really reach out and have those conversations that are difficult. Mostly because they're uncomfortable. Most people are afraid of hurting people's feelings, of hurting a relationship, of creating an awkward situation. I'm not afraid of those things. I'm afraid of losing respect for the person I'm talking with because I can't be friends and because it's very difficult for me to work well with someone I don't respect. And once respect is lost in someone, it is very hard for them to gain it back. I'm also very deeply afraid of losing hope. When I reach out to talk to people about environmental issues, social justice issues, I'm often met with a look of misunderstanding, confusion, judgment. I get this look a lot. A lot of people get very defensive because I'm questioning the very foundation of our entire society. I ask questions that are very uncomfortable. Questions like, is it moral to have children? Is it moral to travel abroad? Is it moral to fly in a plane? Is it moral to eat food from other continents? A lot of these questions make people feel very uncomfortable. If they face those facts, they might have to change something that they really enjoy about their life. This course has forced me to consider some of my strengths and areas for development. If I were to enter into administration, I do have some strengths. My strengths are that I'm very genuine, brimming with integrity, that I have a very low tolerance for cognitive dissonance or inconsistencies. My areas of difficulty, I find it very difficult to hold two conflicting ideas in my mind at the same time, particularly where there are tensions in our job. For instance, where two legal and social intersections of social identity conflict. For me, there is always a right answer. There is always one thing that is more moral than the other, and that's not always the case when we're dealing with such diversity within a board. This course has also forced me to realize that I might come across as cold. While we were at this course, there was a collapse in a cave in Thailand where some students were trapped on a school trip. There was a rescuer who was killed while trying to rescue the students. Many people around me were very upset and grieving the loss of that one rescuer. I couldn't connect with that at an emotional level. I connect with that at an intellectual level. My heart does go out to that person's family. I couldn't connect with the other feelings in the room. All I was doing was sitting there asking, why is no one upset when other tragedies happened? I grieve daily. 40% of the world population deals with food insecurity, or that there is ever-increasing economic inequality in North America, or that Northern Ontario First Nations peoples have the highest suicide rate in the world, or that we're in the middle of the 6th mass extinction of animals on the planet. These systemic injustices are what really plague my mind, so I really have to learn to pause, to take into account how other people are feeling. But I can work on recognizing those feelings, being sympathetic to those feelings, if not empathetic, and making sure that to offer people a safe pathway in and a safe pathway out from difficult conversations. I think the most useful tool I've walked away from the section of this course with is the yes and. I start most sentences with but, and I have to learn to listen to completion and to continue on from what was said to me instead of interrupting. I think that that will create a lot more understanding between myself and others. You know what I'm going to say. Michael Jackson said it best. Sing it with me. You are not alone. That's what's going on in my head every single day of this course, by the way. So here begins all the acronyms. We always have the OCT because we are still teachers. Although we don't have a union anymore, we always have the Ontario Principals Council as our new role at administration. Of course, we have the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor, and the various departments of your own board, including the Equity Department, the Gender-Based Violence Prevention Department, etc. Thanks for putting that in our heads the entire 2 weeks, Barry. Michael will be whispering it in my ear every time something happens on the job. I think the most difficult thing from these 2 days was the difference between the instructional leader and the administrator. The hardest thing for me to reconcile is the difference between being a leader and being an administrator. The Ontario Leadership Framework is awesome. I love every section of it, but it doesn't really acknowledge the difficulties that being a leader puts you in. When you spoke about having to walk one of your teachers out to the parking lot in front of students, that was very difficult to hear. I don't think that I could do that. I don't deal well with have-tos. And this is a job that you don't always have a choice, or else they say goodbye. Or they make your life difficult in a million other ways I don't even know yet. I already know a lot of the difficulties principals face in terms of the top-down delivery of messages from superintendents. Barry, you talked about it all the time, to have the courage to lead your school. And sometimes that means having the scars on your backs from what you shielded your staff from. I think there's some cognitive dissonance happening in what the role of a principal really is. I think the role of the principal is really like 5 jobs put into one. Even if it was just 2 jobs, I really think that there should be an instructional leader in the school and a principal as an administrator. I don't think the two are compatible together, and that's a very difficult idea for me to think about myself doing. I think that's a huge barrier for me in terms of deciding whether or not to be a principal. And I think it's also a huge barrier for other people in our class. A lot of discussions revolved after class about that incident with your staff, how that would feel, whether or not they would be comfortable doing that, whether or not they could live with themselves for inflicting trauma like that on their staff. These are questions I don't have answers for, but I've been thinking about them. And again, my brain goes to the whys, and it goes to the systemic reform about why is this the setup that we have? How can it be changed? But those are questions for another day.